VariAudio is short for variable audio, and it's how you can change the pitches of events in an audio event. To edit anything in VariAudio, the event itself has to be one note at a time, so it can't contain chords. So you could edit singers as long as each singer was on their own track or take, or a bass guitar if no chords were played on the bass guitar, or a solo violin. Again, anything that plays one note at a time you can use with VariAudio, but if it's a piano playing chords or a guitar playing chords, you can't. But here we have our little scale that we used previously in this course, and it has some pitch problems. Let's take a listen to it. Do, re, mi, so, fa, la, di, to, 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 to. Especially that last note. That last note has some pitches that go up and down throughout that long sustain. So with VariAudio, I can fix those things. So here in the project window, I'm going to make sure that that track is selected, and then I'm going to come down to the editor, and while I'm in the editor, I can come over to my inspector and click on the VariAudio tab. And I'm going to scroll up here so that I can see all of those pitches, and I'll need to zoom in here a little bit by typing the G key so I can see all of those notes. And you'll see that it has already analyzed the pitches of that event. If it hasn't analyzed the pitches, you can come up here and click on Edit VariAudio. And when you do that, now you'll see that the notes have been colorized, and that helps you see where each individual pitch is in relation to this keyboard. And the keyboard is there for a pitch reference. So if we look really closely at this first C note, you can see that the borders of that block are actually below C. So that note is actually a little bit flat. This note is pretty much on there. The E is pretty much on. The F is. The next note, this G, is a little bit flat because it's outside of that lane. So what we could do is edit an individual note's pitch just by clicking on it and dragging it up or down. To make a note sharper, you would drag it up. To make a note flatter, you drag it down. So I'm going to move that note up and down. You'll notice that it is snapping to all of those different pitches, and we see the original pitch in the orange little line right there, and the new pitch is white. So it's snapping to those notes, so it's going to make those notes as perfect as possible. If you don't want that snap, that pitch snap to happen, you can hold down the Shift key, and now you can move that note anywhere that you want to any degree of sharp or flat. But I'm just going to sharpen it up here a little bit. So you can do it one note at a time, but you can also do an entire event or an entire track and quantize those pitches so that they are closer to in tune. What I'm going to do is do a Controller Command A to select all of the events. Then I can come to my quantize pitch control and I can start to drag that up. And as you do, you'll start to see those notes get closer to the original pitch. And if you quantize the pitch all the way over at 100%, then you're making the track perfect. And again, perfection is overrated. We want to maintain some of that human element in there. So let's just quantize the pitch around 30%. And then that line that I was telling you about inside the notes, that is the pitch tracking. So you'll see that some of these notes have little wavers inside of them. And what I can do is I can straighten the curve of that pitch by using the straighten curve command right here, or the slider. So the closer you get to 100%, the closer you get to absolute perfection. Like I say, perfection is overrated. Let me show you why. If I were to quantize the pitches and the curves of all of those notes, here's what we get. Do, re, mi, so, fa, la, di, to, 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 to. So we get that kind of share effect, and that's a nice effect for certain things, although I think it's been overused at this point. So I'm going to set these back to more gentle settings. But this last note I'm kind of bugged with because I landed right on the pitch, right on the C, but then the computer has analyzed it and shown me that the note gets kind of sharper as it's sustained. So that curve is a little bit wobbly. So to fix that, I'm going to select just that event. Then I'm going to come over to straighten curve, and this will be straightening the curve of just that note. So the editing in the VariAudio window will change depending on what selections you've made here in the editor. Now let's listen to how that note trails off, and it will sound much better than it did before. to, 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 to. And the note itself is a little bit sharp still. See how it's a little bit outside of its lane? So I can use the quantize pitch control to move that closer to the actual pitch, or I can click and drag it up and down here in the pitch editor. I don't want to snap, so I'll hold down the shift key and I'll just get it closer to the original pitch. I'm going to make it a little tiny bit flat, because as my old man used to say, it's better to be flat than out of tune. So now when we listen to the results, we're going to have a much more listenable take. Do, re, mi, so, fa, la, di, to, 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 to. And that's how to edit VariAudio, and it's also the end of this course. My name is Matthew Lolte Hepworth, and thanks for watching.